Hey mamas, if you've heard anything about labor inductions, you've probably associated it with Pitocin. Pitocin is one of the most commonly known induction methods, but there's also a lot most women don't know, and in order for you to have an informed and empowered birth experience, you should have a well-rounded knowledge of Pitocin, how it works, the benefits, the risks, and how it impacts labor. When you go into your labor leaving room for uncertainty and guesswork, it often leads to situations that mamas feel powerless or anxious in. By the end of this video, we're going to take the guesswork out of a Pitocin induction to help you focus on an empowering, informed, and positive birth experience. I'm Bridget, and I'm a childbirth educator and birth doula, and it's my honor and passion to help educate and empower women in the reality that they are built to birth. For more resources on all things pregnancy, birth, and postpartum, make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit the little bell so you don't miss any future videos that come your way. So what exactly is Pitocin? Pitocin is a man-made chemical that mimics your body's natural hormone called oxytocin. Oxytocin is a crucial hormone in labor, and to save time in this video, if you don't know much about oxytocin and the other hormones at work before and during labor, you need to watch this video that is linked up here. What you do need to know right now about oxytocin is that it is what begins contractions and then increases and intensifies them so that you get to meet your baby at the end of your labor. So when your labor doesn't begin on its own and you're facing a medically necessary induction for the health and safety of you or your baby, oxytocin is often used to get labor going and to keep it going till you meet your baby. Now, one misconception that mamas have about Pitocin is that it's always used at the beginning of an induction to get things going. And in reality, Pitocin is only used when the cervix is already favorable. And the way they measure the favorability of a cervix is by using the Bishop score. Again, for time's sake, I'm not going into great detail about the Bishop score, but basically it measures how thin and open the cervix is, the consistency of it, is it hard or soft, the position of the cervix, is it posterior facing more towards the back or anterior facing more towards the front into the vagina, as well as the level of baby's head, where the baby's head is at in the pelvis. All of these scores, which your care provider can gather by doing a cervical exam, helps them know whether or not you'd be a good candidate for a Pitocin induction right away, or if you need another method of induction first, such as Cytotec, Cervidil, or a Foley balloon, all things that we're talking about in this induction playlist. If your cervix is hard and closed, you're likely not going to go into your induction to get started off on Pitocin first. First, your cervix needs to become really soft and expandable so that when Pitocin enters the picture, you can really start dilating and baby can start moving down and out of the uterus. The purpose of Pitocin is to bring on the contractions that are going to help draw up that uterus to thin and open the cervix and then push baby down into and through the vagina. So if you are being faced with an induction, ask your care provider about how favorable your cervix is and how that might impact the way the induction process goes. Now, I said at the beginning that Pitocin is a synthetic or fake version of oxytocin, and this is an important aspect to understand because of the way it can impact your body, impact your baby, and impact your birth experience. Oxytocin, when naturally made by the body, is regulated by other hormones, especially one called endorphins, which help keep oxytocin from getting out of control. And this is accomplished by the natural oxytocin crossing into the brain, triggering your brain to release growing amounts of endorphins. However, synthetic oxytocin, Pitocin, does not cross into the brain, which means it does not trigger the release of endorphins into your body to help manage the intensifying sensation from the contractions, but also means that the fake oxytocin is running the game without the endorphins as referees. This means that the uterus is almost continuously being flooded with oxytocin without a break, whereas in a naturally progressing labor, the uterus does get breaks from the intensity of the oxytocin. This can cause overstimulation of the uterus where it's contracting too regularly and intensely, which can but rarely does cause the uterine muscle or the placenta to tear open, called an abruption, or more commonly create sensations too painful and nonstop for mama to bear without the use of medication like an epidural, put baby into distress, or increase the risk for postpartum hemorrhage. The use of Pitocin also increases the risk for C-sections. Now, thankfully, a lot of these things can be managed through proper dosages of Pitocin and careful monitoring of mama and baby. Yes, with Pitocin, mama will be closely monitored to make sure that she and her baby are tolerating the oxytocin and the contractions safely and healthily. Also, ask your care provider to let you know when they are upping the dosage of Pitocin and to start you off on the lowest dose possible, which they normally do. If you've had a previous C-section, your care provider may not even use Pitocin to induce labor because of the heightened risk of placental or uterine abruption. Pitocin is administered through an IV which is connected to your arm. If you've had a baby before, you might have a quicker response to the Pitocin at a lower dose to kickstart labor than if this is your first time giving birth. But basically, your care team is going to increase the dosage until mama is getting consistent surges that are changing her cervix and helping bring baby down and out. You'll have an IV line that goes from your arm to an IV drip bag that is hanging from an IV stand. And on the stand, there will be a little box that controls how much Pitocin is administered at a given time. It's a little computerized pump. And they'll start off with the lowest dose, about 1 milliunit, and then about every 30 to 60 minutes, a nurse is going to come in and then press a little button on that computerized pump to increase the Pitocin in increments of about 1 to 2 milliunits each time. And that will be continued until a pattern sets in with the surges and they are changing the cervix, as I said. If contractions become dangerous to you or baby, they can stop administering it to you to allow your body and baby to recover. And if that happens, they are going to restart the Pitocin at that lowest dose. If you are trying to avoid an epidural, you can always ask for some time between upping the doses to see if your body takes over in place of the Pitocin to keep labor going on its own. But if your body doesn't take over, then the dosage will keep increasing until your surges are about 2 to 3 minutes apart and are dilating the cervix. And throughout this time, you will be monitored. So knowing that you'll have an IV for the Pitocin and will also be hooked up to a monitor to track your contractions and baby's heart rate, I encourage you to brainstorm some ways that you can be as mobile as possible while you're hooked up to these machines. So maybe that's going to be on all fours in bed or asking for a portable telemetry unit so that you can be monitored and still walk around, or ask if your hospital provides waterproof wear for the monitor or the IVs so that you can take a shower or a bath. These are all things that are, one, going to help labor progress quicker and more effectively, and two, help you find comfort as you work through an intensifying labor. Now, I know that mamas can get really nervous about inductions, especially Pitocin inductions, but I want you to know that in the right circumstances, Pitocin inductions are the best thing you can give your baby, because it means that you are keeping them safe and healthy by birthing them when the womb is no longer the best place for them to be. I also want to encourage you by saying that just because a Pitocin induction is necessary does not mean that a positive birth experience is out of reach and you have no control over your birth experience. You are still the one who gets to make all of the decisions with the help of your care team, and you still have the opportunity, if not even a bigger opportunity than in a spontaneous labor, to really utilize so many comfort techniques to help you have a positive experience. Comfort techniques such as acupressure points, which I have a video about linked right up here, massage, a calming environment, which I talk about in this video, position changes, utilizing gravity by staying upright, and all the various ways that you find comfort outside of labor and bringing them into labor are all things that you can do to create comfort and create peace in your birth experience. When you're being faced with a Pitocin induction, I also encourage you to use your brain, which is an acronym I explain in this video linked up here, to get all your questions answered before agreeing to an intervention. When you are educated, you are equipped to make the best decision, and the more you know, the less you fear. So ask all the questions that you can to help you make the best choice for yourself, your baby, and your birth experience. I also want to encourage you, because I've worked with and heard so many stories from mamas who have felt like they have failed if they have had to get induced and the Pitocin drove them to get an epidural, that getting Pitocin or an epidural is by no standard considered a failure. At the end of the day, we want mama to be healthy and baby to be healthy, which was what led you to needing an induction. And you also want a positive birth experience that you can look back on and remember without feeling the pain of it or the feeling of being out of control. So if an epidural is what helps you achieve that, then both of those things, using the Pitocin and using the epidural, were important and incredibly good parts of your birth story. So much of the birthing process and experience is in the mind, and mama, where your mind leads, your body follows. So if you're feeling anxious about birth due to an induction that awaits you, I really encourage you to download the Built to Birth affirmation meditations to help guide your mind to lead your body in the direction that you want it to go. If you're not at the end of your pregnancy and you're still looking to learn about all things birth, childbirth education is so crucial, and I have a course that dives so deeply into what we've talked about in this video, plus all the ways that you can facilitate labor before and during, whether you're being induced or not. Everything you need to know for a happier, healthier, and easier birth can be learned through my Built to Birth online class, which is linked in the description below. Mama, if you are considering or planning an induction, the information that you've learned in this video has hopefully helped you weigh the benefits and risks of Pitocin and has helped you understand how it can impact you, your baby, and your birth experience, while giving you some tools and lots of encouragement to help you navigate your way to a positive birth. If you're interested in learning more about inductions and how to navigate them for an empowering birth experience, watch the rest of the videos in this playlist to help you better understand what is involved in the induction process. So thanks for being with me in this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, mamas.